Once upon a time, in the heart of a lush green forest, there lived a sly and cunning cat. This was no ordinary cat, mind you, but one with emerald green eyes that shone with mischief and paws that moved with the stealth of a shadow. His name was Leo, and he was the terror of the forest. Leo lived for two things: chasing butterflies and catching mice. He was so good at what he did that every mouse in the forest knew his name and every butterfly feared his pounce. But Leo's world would change forever when he met Professor Ben, an owl of exceptional wisdom and patience. Professor Ben lived in an old oak tree, and his days were filled with reading, writing, and observing the forest. One day, Leo decided to pay him a visit. He hopped onto the windowsill of the owl's tree and meowed loudly until the professor opened the window. "Can I help you?" asked the professor sleepily, adjusting his spectacles. "I want to be like you," blurted out Leo, wise, powerful, and respected. The professor blinked in surprise. "But you are strong, quick, and agile. Every creature in this forest respects you." "I chase butterflies and catch mice," replied Leo dejectedly. "That's not what I want to do for the rest of my life." The professor considered this. "Then you must find something that interests you more, something that makes you curious." Leo thought for a moment. But what could be more interesting than catching mice or butterflies? "Everything is so boring. You just need to look at things from a different perspective," said the professor. "Why don't you come with me on my next adventure? You can observe and learn." And so began Leo's journey under the guidance of the wise owl. At first, it was hard. Sitting still and observing was not as easy as Leo had imagined. There were so many distractions in the forest, so many smells to sniff, so many birds to chase. But he tried his best. One day, they were sitting by a stream watching the fish darting through the water. "Look how fast they are," sighed Leo. "I wish I could be like them, swimming freely in the water." "You can't just wish to be something you're not," said the professor. "You have to work at it." "How?" asked Leo, confused. "By trying to understand their way of life, learning their language, perhaps befriending some of them," suggested the professor. "Knowledge is power, my young friend. Understanding the world around you gives you the ability to do extraordinary things." Leo wasn't sure about this, but he knew he had to try harder if he wanted to become wise and powerful like the owl. So he started spending more time by the stream, trying to make friends with the fish. But they were too quick and elusive. Then one day, Leo met a whale. Now, this was no ordinary whale, mind you, but a humpback whale named Coral. He was the biggest, kindest, and most intelligent whale in the whole ocean. And he was also very curious. "Hello, little cat," boomed Coral. "What brings you to the river?" "I want to learn about your world," replied Leo. "I want to understand how you live, how you swim, how you sing." Coral was taken aback by the cat's request, but he was also touched by his sincerity. "Very well," said the whale. "Let me show you." And so Leo's real education began. He spent his days with the whales, learning about their songs, their migration patterns, their underwater adventures. He discovered that the whales were not just huge, powerful creatures, but also gentle, graceful, and harmonious. Their songs were like magic, enchanting him with tales of the deep sea. One day, While they were swimming together, Coral noticed Leo struggling to keep up. "You're not a strong swimmer, little cat," he said kindly. "Perhaps you'd be happier on land." Leo sighed. "I know I'm not a very good swimmer, but I love being in the water. It's just so different from my life on land." "Then you must find what truly makes you happy," replied the whale. "Don't let others tell you what you should or shouldn't like. Follow your curiosity." Leo thought about this. Maybe he didn't have to become a whale or an owl or anything else. Maybe he could simply be Leo, the cat who loved the water, the cat who sang with the whales, the cat who understood the language of the deep. As the days turned into weeks, Leo's transformation was remarkable. He became calmer, more observant, and wiser. He could sit for hours listening to the whales sing or watching the fish dance. He learned that true wisdom lay not in being powerful or respected, but in understanding and appreciating the world in all its forms. Meanwhile, the professor was busy writing a book about his adventures with Leo. He had seen the incredible changes in the cat and wanted to share their journey with the rest of the forest. One day, Leo and the professor were sitting by the river when the other animals gathered around them, curious to hear the professor's stories. "Tell us a tale of your adventures," urged a squirrel. "We want to hear about the amazing things you've seen and done." The professor cleared his throat and began to speak. "Our first stop on our journey was the river. There we met a family of otters who taught us the art of playing in the water. They showed us how to slide down muddy banks and catch fish with our paws." The animals gasped in amazement. "Wow, that sounds like fun," exclaimed a rabbit. "But that was just the beginning," continued the professor. "We then traveled to the mountains, where we made friends with a family of goats who taught us the importance of perseverance and balance. They showed us how to climb steep cliffs and leap over dangerous ravines." The animals nodded in admiration. "I bet that was quite the challenge," said a deer. "Indeed it was," replied the professor. "But our greatest adventure was yet to come. We then went to the sea, where we met a pod of dolphins who taught us the joy of freedom and playfulness. They showed us how to swim alongside each other and communicate with clicks and whistles." The animals were mesmerized by the story. "I can't believe a cat can learn to swim with dolphins," whispered a mouse. "It's true," said the professor with a smile. "And what's more, he learned their language." "Can you imagine?" Leo purred with pride. It was amazing to think how far he had come, from being a small, curious kitten to exploring the world with an old owl, making friends with whales and dolphins, learning their songs and languages. He had experienced so much, and it was all because he had followed his curiosity. The other animals looked at Leo with respect and admiration. They had never thought a cat could be so brave, so adventurous, so wise. From that day on, Slinky was known throughout the forest as the cat who swam with the whales. He continued to explore the world, learning from every creature he met, always following his curiosity. And whenever the other animals needed help or advice, they knew they could turn to Leo, the wise, the brave, the one who had followed his curiosity and made it his superpower.